And so we're gonna go ahead and start tonight. First of all, Asia Butler. Asia Butler, are you in the house?
I am in the house. I'm in the building.
Love it, love it,
How
love
are
it.
you? Do you hear me okay?
Do hear you. I do hear. We're gonna get you. There you are,
Oh,
on
wow.
our screen. Go. That's it. Boom. Love it. Love it. Love it. Look at. I mean, I mentioned before. The jacket is doing everything. Love it. Love it.
We
So
had nice weather today, it was nice.
you got to do it. You got to do it. So Aisha, tell me. Where are you?
I'm actually in Chicago, Illinois. The community is Englewood, which is where I'm from. So yeah, the South Side, if people are familiar with Chicago, they kind of talk about it in North Side, West Side, South Side, East Side. I'm on the South Side in Englewood.
Love it. Love it. So tell me a little bit about. So in your organization, you are one of the co-founders of Rage. Tell me about Rage.
Yes, yes, yes. RAGE stands for, I love the name. It stands for the Resident Association of Greater Englewood, exactly who we are. We are a neighborhood association that really was about 13 of us who lived in the community, really felt like our voices needed to be heard. We felt like we wanted to spark change in our area. We're in a community that's been disinvested, for the last few decades, and we want it to be walkable, safe. And so we kind of joined forces back in 2010 and began our journey of starting the Resident Association of Greater Englewood.
Love it, love it. I don't want to get any spoilers away about your story, but I do want to drop you in. So you are just as a little context, you came to Englewood at about around 17, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My family has always been here. And so my grandfather was here, my mom and dad met here. But then I moved back here with my grandfather when I was 17 years old. Yeah.
Love it, love it. So take us to the moment where things kind of changed in your whole journey in Englewood. Let's
Oh,
now.
yeah, oh my goodness. I was fortunate enough to purchase property here, my first piece of property in my 20s in 2002, and really was excited about being this new homeowner and had some challenges on the block, I think from the offset. We didn't ride around the block at night, and so once we moved in and got here, we learned very quickly that we were not alone and that the majority of to us looked like all of Chicago used to hang out on our block and party into the wee hours. And that went on consistently, constantly, and unfortunately, like what many folks understand, sometimes large gatherings with liquor or whatever the case may be could end up deadly. And so a few times we've been here and heard gunshots. A few times we've been here and heard fights break out. But I think like the one moment that really stands out to me was a time when we was home, we were going to my mom's house, and probably my mom was about 7 minutes away from us. And when we got to my mom's house, we're going to dinner, and we got a call from ADT as soon as we got to the door, and that our alarm system had been activated. And this is, when we left, it was a party, it was people out, it was people enjoying themselves. And we are like super lost on terms of why is our ADT system going off? So we circle back, get back to the house. The partying is still happening, our alarm is still going off, and we are checking the house and seeing what happened. Maybe it was a false alarm, but we actually saw that my daughter's window was wide open, that somebody had, attempted to come in our house and do whatever they was trying to do. And I was shaken. I felt violated. I felt powerless. I felt fearful, but I also was really pissed off. And I really like went on that porch. If they have never heard my voice ever, they heard it that night. I yelled, I cussed, I went crazy, and like no one knows anything. Who was trying to get in my house? And it really just, if we already had a wedge with our next door neighbors, this created a larger wedge, right? And so um, it was just a really unfortunate situation to the point that me and my husband just said enough is enough. Like we have our only daughter, we're trying to raise a child, we're trying to be homeowners. We got to get up out of here. We got to get up off this block, and we got to get up out of Chicago. And so that is really like my where I'm at, where I live, and what the situation was years ago. I would say that. Probably back, and I don't know, Scott, if you just got to jump off mute, but
No, keep going.
yeah, no, I was
Going.
gonna say, with that turmoil and with that situation, things didn't get necessarily better quickly. There still was tension on the block. And me and my husband really made the arrangements that we needed to relocate to Atlanta. I have the majority of my father's side of the family actually migrated out of Chicago to Atlanta. Um, and I always share this story because it really was that pivotal moment where I'm looking outside of my house at the kids of my neighbors, in our vacant lot, in a vacant lot. And for folks who are not, familiar with the city, we have a lot of demolitions of homes. And so next thing you know, we have these vacant spaces throughout the whole community. Most of the time, they're filled with glass, tires, dirt, whatever the case may be. And at that moment, I did see that little girl. I did see some kids playing, and I just told my husband at that moment, we can't leave. I know we made arrangements. I know we want to leave, but we have to do something. We have to connect with our neighbors. We have to stand in our power. I cannot be fearful. I am a homeowner. I have some agency here. Um, and at that point, I decided, you know what? I'm going to make some connections. I'm going to talk to the young people. I'm going to talk to the neighbors. I'm going to at least say hello, right? We wasn't even saying hello to each other. So I'm going to at least say hello. How are you? How was your day? And I think even that small gesture kind of helped break away some of the tension that we had that just, kind of popped off a few weeks ago. And so from that journey, on the block, and it took a while. It still have taken about 10 to 11 years to fully stabilize the block. We've had incidents occur, but I think at this point, there's now at least an expectation that, certain things will not be allowed on our block. And so from that, I felt like if I could, deal with somebody who just deal with people who almost tried to rob me or deal with my neighbors who have been disruptive for so long, I actually can take this on and do more, right? I could do more outside of my block. I could do more within my community. And then I just became, this eager, young, super volunteer who wanted to give so much of my time and my energy to my community to uplift it. And from that, I just continued on and then eventually met some phenomenal people, and through volunteer assignments, through being considered, I guess that, once you're an eager volunteer, you're going to be told that you should chair something or you should lead something or you should recap the notes of the meeting. And I kind of like just took that on. I wanted to do things. I knew that I was, I was like, okay, that's what I'm here for. So I happily kind of took on these roles. And so as an eager volunteer, I was kind of voluntold to kind of monitor a film with this discussion, right? Like everyone else, all the dignitaries who were doing a podcast somewhere else, and I needed to be like in this theater room with the community, which was not a problem. I'm from the community, I am community. But I noticed during that event that people loved it. People loved watching a movie and being able to have commentary and food and to be in a space with their grandmothers and their uncles and their families. And it wasn't something that we saw happen frequently in our community. And so I got an idea. I said, you know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring people together. We're gonna bring families together. If you don't think Englewood is safe, we're gonna show you a safe environment. If you don't think our community is family oriented, we're gonna show you a family oriented environment. If you don't think we can have culture and fun and food and loudness and laughter and joy, we're gonna show you something different. And so that's what we did, and we created this really cute project. I love the project. It was called Docs and Dialogue. And then literally it was documentaries and dialogue. And we decided to, a couple of us on the volunteer committee decided to launch this. And at that moment, people don't know who I am. Even though I'm from Englewood, my family's from Englewood, everybody know I'm from Englewood. But like the community folks don't know who I am. And so they almost looked at me as an outsider of who is this person, who is this eager volunteer trying to do this project, right? And so I really took the time to learn the players in the community, as you would say, learn the other weavers that was weaving it for years before I showed up on the scene. And really acknowledge our elders who really kind of helped me shape this project and who was also very enthusiastic about docs and dialogue. And so after I kind of, I guess, got my cred, my street cred from my elders or the blessing from my elders, they said, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And at that time, I had knew someone who had this beautiful space called the Perry Mansion Cultural Center, absolutely beautiful landscaping and flowers all over. He was an artist, he was a carpenter. He had did a replica of the slave ship and it was upside down in this space. It was very, very different, a very different vibe. And that was our first one. And we were nervous. We didn't know who we were, how people would respond. We were going off the faith of what we saw happen, a few months ago. Um, and we went door to door. We told people about it. They was excited. Oh my God, I didn't even know it was a cultural center in the community. Didn't know it was a space where I can bring my family and my young people and elders. And then that day came. And next thing you know, we're looking out the window and buses are arriving and kids are arriving and young people and elders and, all ages are showing up to be in this space together and gather and watch this movie. I think it was beats and rhymes of hip hop. We decided to use, kind of the music and the culture to be a way that sparked these kind of provocative conversations. Also, we knew young people would be so enamored by talking about hip hop and that our older people wanted to also know like what is this phenomenon and how it shapes our culture. So it was a very rich discussion and really like set us on the path of like, oh wow, can we do this again? Could we continue to create a space on a Saturday? We're volunteering, we're working full time. Could we do this and go throughout the community and hit up all the libraries and the community centers and bring people together on a consistent basis? And we did. And Docs and Dialogue was this hit, but also it brought out residents like me, residents who were fed up on their block, residents who wanted to do more, people who had remarkable skills who was telling me, hey, are you taking pictures of this? I'm like, nope, I'm not a photographer. Or are you writing curriculum for this? Nope, I'm not. And those were things that people offered to do to really help with this project. And so once I kind of saw, and I look at it like, a little bit like Marvel. Once I start seeing all these superheroes or super neighbors coming out, I said, we need to join forces. And I think the best platform for us to do that would probably be an association. Um, for folks who don't know, my life before Rage or even life during Rage was at the Institute of Real Estate Management. It was an association for property managers. So I just knew fundamentally that people join associations because of shared interests and shared values. And so why not really use what I learned on the Mag Mile to my community and do it as a neighborhood association? And next thing you know, it grew and evolved and grew and evolved. And we are here 15 years later. We're doing projects now that are upward of $7 million. We started really small, but now we have continued to grow. And I think the energy of our members and our work continue to grow in Englewood. And I'm just so glad I never left. I'm actually glad they did try to come in my house. I'm glad I saw that young person across the street because it probably wouldn't have sparked anything in me to go down this path. So just grateful overall.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much, Aisha. I love this story, and I love talking to you. One of the things that I want to do is I want to take us back just slightly into your story. Take me back to that moment again where you are looking out that window and you're seeing that little girl outside, and you're kind of having that should I stay or should I go moment. Think about that person who you were and what that means to you now.
Wow. Um, it really was my mindset. I felt like at first it was no way out from this block, that I felt like I was gonna be violated again. I was probably gonna be hurt. I didn't feel safe with my daughter. So I just did all the plans that I needed to get out.
Mhm.
And now in hindsight, that would have been the easy way out,
Yeah.
right? It would have been so much easier. It wouldn't have been anything for us to look for how my family's in Georgia. They know where I should, set up shop. It would have been so easy, but I'm glad I took on the challenge. That young person in the dirt, sitting across the street, playing and throwing glass into the street. She should not, or he, even the whole crew that was out there, that is just not what we should be doing and allowing with our young people. And I just knew in my soul, this isn't right. Like, I'm not judging our neighbors if this is the way they want to get down, but no, I can't sit across the street and look at this. So it made me say, you know what? Forget all this, like taking the easy way out. I'm gonna take the hard. I'm gonna go the hard way. And the hard way is, hello, how are you? What do you need? You want to do something together? Let's clean up the block. Let's help with, we had a tenant, Miss Flanagan. Let's help Miss Flanagan with her groceries. Let me speak to your parents, and I used to always, love that I could come home now and people are not sitting on my car, and now people are saying, "Oh, sorry, Miss Lady, did you know leave Miss Butler car?" Which wasn't the case. And if I would have left, I think I would never experience that, and it wouldn't have really prepped me for all the challenges and the things that I'm doing now working in the community. So I'm glad I took the hard way and did not take the easy way out.
Excellent, excellent. And now, well, congratulations on
Thank
15
you.
years of doing this.
I
And
know.
as we were talking and prepping for today, you were talking about what you've been thinking about for the past 15 years and reflecting. What you got so far?
Oh my God, I'm still reflecting. I think a lot of times when you start a path or start a journey, you absolutely have no clue where it's going to lead you. So with us, we were just neighbors. We wanted to do something more. We wanted to do it together. And we didn't know we were building this movement, this institution. We was building these stories. We were actually healing community that has felt broken, or many of us who have felt broken. I mean, I felt broken, and so as we look back now, we're like, wow, this is something that really could happen anywhere, right? And it could start with just your block. It could start with your community. It could start with the city, and so I love that we documented our work. I was a blogger back then. That's when like blog spots was a big deal. So I would literally document our work. So now I could go back and see what my feelings were, what my emotions were the things that I documented. Like, hey, I'm at this, march today, and all these young, beautiful people are here. And the fact that I, took the time to write about it, and that Rage took the time to document it and share it really as a counter narrative to what people talk about when they mention our community, has just, I don't know, it's just an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment, but also agency, and also like, hey, like many of us are fearful, many of us are broken, and many of us sometimes do take the easy way, right? But this was like a story of folks who decided not to do that, and I just feel good that I'm able to share it. I feel good that it was contagious to other neighbors, and that we continue to grow and expand and evolve through the portal of Rage.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Aisha. I appreciate that. We're going to have you back a little bit at the end just to say
Sure.
good night. But thank you once again. Show some love
Thank
from
you.
Ms. Butler in the chat and elsewise.